This is a national emergency. Our work here will ensure a peace mankind has never seen. The world will remember this day.
Why did you feel that this was an important story that needed to be told?
I mean, I really come at my subjects from the point of view of how exciting is the story, how engaging is it. And Oppenheimer's story, as I learned more about it through reading the book American Prometheus, from which it's adapted, his story is one of the most dramatic, if not the most dramatic I've ever encountered.
Oh, well, I think it's a huge story. There's so many huge kind of moral and ethical questions being asked in it, and it's almost kind of paradoxical.
As you go through the process of writing the script and making the film, casting the film, working together with the actors, you start to feel the resonances in the real world. In today's world, how does his story resonate?
The story of America in the 20th century, but it's also very relevant, I think, to what's happening in the world today.
So actually, Robert and Kitty's last remaining child, he's still alive today. Did you manage to speak to him to get more insight to the man?
I was able to speak to his son and, talk to Charles Oppenheimer in general terms about, what we were doing, and he knew the book that I was adapting. I was also able to speak to Edward Teller's grandson and get some small insight. Ultimately, Oppenheimer himself, he was an enigmatic figure, very hard to pin down, a lot of contradictory opinions about him.
We're in a race against the Nazis. And I know what it means if the Nazis have a bomb.
When we started, Chris said, this is all about Oppenheimer. Like, I need you guys to be in support of this central character. That's kind of the mission. And watching Cillian and Chris build that performance together, it was just amazing. And that's what makes the movie work.
It was very clear from the beginning, we're not making a documentary, we're not trying to do an impression. Inevitably, it's a kind of a synthesis of Chris's script, all the research that I did prior to the shoot, and of course, inevitably you bring something of yourself to it, I suppose.
Even though it's all about Oppenheimer, I feel like each and every one of you really shone. It's not as if like anybody's a throwaway.
No, for sure.
No one.
But it's
And
all
I
in
think
service
he
of...
sort of wanted these big, and Oppenheimer did have these kind of big personalities around him. And he was so enigmatic, and Cillian's the perfect actor to play the duality of that man at every turn. But he had a very fiery wife. He had this pretty blustering, brusque relationship with Matt's character. He created very colorful characters around Cillian's enigmatic quality, and so it was just a joy to be bouncing boards
so
for
that
him,
so that Cillian could sit at the center, right, and
just
hold
quietly.
the whole movie.
It was so awesome.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
What do you want from theory alone?
Zero would be nice.
So Nolan is all about details. I understand that down to even having real scientists as extras on set,
That's
which
right.
brings a different conversation to the table. What other details floored you about this during the whole filming process?
Oh, everything. I mean, he cares about every single aspect of the movie. He was obsessed about my hair, for example.
Really?
Because his hair changed quite dramatically over the movie, so for some reason, Chris became obsessed about it.
He's so specific about everything. He's so knowledgeable about everything. So we would review those details before every scene, like what do we need to get in here? He understood all the dynamics in between the military and the scientists and all of our interpersonal dynamics and how to put his actors in a position to succeed.
If Oppenheimer were alive today, would there be a question that you'd like to ask him?
He had a way of speaking that he would say a lot without necessarily revealing much about his own opinions, which made his story very interesting to me. Often what he was saying about what he thought was very different to the way he appeared to be acting. That makes for a very interesting protagonist of a film. It would be incredible to sit with him in real life and try and actually gain some intimate understanding of what he really felt about what he'd been involved with.
Our boys would come home. I can perform this miracle. Robert, try not to blow up the world.
If Christopher Nolan were a scientist,
Is he not? I feel like he is, isn't he?
what kind of scientist do you think he would be?
He really understands the science, and that, you can see that in all of his films. I think if you look at Interstellar or Tenet or even Inception. You know, he really understands it. I think he's kind of got an engineering brain.
It's why the structure of his films are so sort of mind-bending and yet they work. Like the way Chris Nolan thinks and sees the world is outside of of what most of us can manage to comprehend.
I think he's probably the most intelligent person I know. He's outrageously smart.
In fact, I've read 2 of his scripts, Interstellar and Oppenheimer, and in each case, I finished it and said, that's one of the best things I've ever read. I have no idea how you're going to shoot it.
Right.
I'm really excited that I'm going to get to be there to watch, because I don't know
How to shoot
how
that.
to shoot that. Yeah.
Right. And what did you hope that this version of Oppenheimer would be to the audience?
I really hope that the movie provokes people. I hope that it, you know, I'd ask questions of people. I don't think it should be prescriptive or give answers, but I do think the people that have seen it elicits this very strong reaction.
5 words to describe the movie.
5 words. to
Just
describe the
5.
movie. I think it's intense,
Intense.
Confronting.
paradoxical,
Masterpiece.
but I think it's also very engaging. And that's what we look for in movies and in stories we tell in cinema.